reason for it. You're here at the perfect time. Damon, good to have you, and Reverend Furious. We're just getting started in an unusual meditation. It's unusual because your object of meditation won't be your breathing or won't be a mantra, won't be a visual, although if you'd like to visualize a chrysanthemum, all those just perfect little petals, you could do that. But really, the voice track I'll be sending out for your ears and kind of simple, easy, I hope meditative ideas behind them can be your object of meditation. And we're going to go and try to figure out how chrysanthemums ever got to be chrysanthemums. And the story starts in China. 3,000 years ago, easily. Those beautiful mums that we wear as celebrative things or mourning things or all sorts of things were just a shrub. And someone must have seen the potential, something a little bit more than was meeting the eye, and they started cultivating the flower of that shrub. The years went by, and soon the chrysanthemum was considered one of the 4 noble plants of traditional Chinese culture, along with the bamboo, the orchid, and the plum. And stories began to be told, stories like the tale of a young boy who was writing, but he wasn't writing on paper. He decided to write on the leaf of a chrysanthemum, and some dew dripped from the leaf, and the boy drank the chrysanthemum leaf dew and went on to live for 800 years. Why do stories like this get told? The chrysanthemum is coming out right now, early spring. But we won't see it as the chrysanthemum that we know and love for many months. We'll go through summer. We'll go through early fall. We'll go through the first frost, and all the other plants and flowering plants especially will wither and die. And then, and only then, does the chrysanthemum start to bloom. The chrysanthemum becomes the chrysanthemum against the harsh frosts of late fall. It looks a little bit like immortality, blooming and quietly existing there when everything else is gone, effortlessly persisting, no matter how harsh the conditions around. These are great Confucian virtues. And it was Confucius who wrote the oldest written testimonial we have to the chrysanthemum. He was mesmerized by its beauty, wrote about its detailed perfection. The golden flower in Mandarin is said Ju, which sounds like the word in Mandarin to live, Ju, and also to persist and endure, Jiu. These sound equivalencies come for a reason. Is it more than just standing out in the late fall, blooming and living when everything else was dead? Other stories begin to tell us more about why the chrysanthemum was singled out. The story of the village along the Ru River in Henan province, where every fall on the ninth day of the ninth month, the plague monster would visit the village and claim its victims every year. Until one year, a boy, Juan Qin, decided he needed to rid the village of the plague monster forever, and he went to the elders and said, "How can I make this plague monster go away and never come back?" And they said, it can't be done. Well, maybe if you had magical powers, you would be able to slay the plague monster. Well, one Qin said, "How do I get magical powers?" And they said, "You get magical powers, everybody knows this, by apprenticing yourself to an immortal." And Juan Qin decided, okay, well, he headed off into the mountains because that's where immortals live, but they're hard to find. And he looked, and finally one day a dove. But he was trying to tell him something, so Juan Qin followed it, and it led to kind of a secluded old temple where a Taoist magician priest named Fei lived. And Juan Qin was sure he'd found the immortal he needed and begged to be taken on as disciple. And Fei could see the purity of his motive, wanting to rid his village of the plague monster, so he taught him the defensive arts. And when his practice was complete, he bestowed on him the green dragon sword that is needed to kill demons. But as he gave him the green dragon sword, he also gave him a bag full of leaves from the chrysanthemum shrub and a big jug of chrysanthemum wine. Now, Juan Qin was ready to fight the plague master. Went back to the village, assembled the villagers, and gave each one of them a bit of the leaf from the plant and a sip of the wine, the chrysanthemum wine. Gathered them together, leaving the village, off up into the mountains, just before the plague monster came again. Saw them fleeing, saw them heading for the mountains, took after them in a rage, and as he came closer, he smelled the scent of chrysanthemum, and he halted. And as he halted, Juan Qin was able to use his green dragon sword and stab the plague monster and end the threat. And it is still the case on the 9th day of the 9th month. In rural areas all over China, people will take leaves and wine from the chrysanthemum and take a day off in the mountains. We have now rediscovered what folks knew a long time ago. The anti-inflammatory properties of chrysanthemum are well documented. The antioxidizing properties have been proven and demonstrated, and the antibacterial and antifungal properties are being explored further now. I'm sure they will be powerful. The chrysanthemum didn't make it out of China till about the 800s by way of Korea, went to Japan. where it was immediately adopted by the royal family on its crest, still there now. And it wasn't until the 1700s that the Dutch took it out of the East and brought it to Western Europe. And not until the mid 1800s that North America saw the chrysanthemum. Now there's thousands of varieties, thousands of colors. And the colors themselves have taken on a symbolism in different cultures all over the world. In Germany, the white chrysanthemum is brought into the house at Christmas to symbolize sheltering the Christ child. But in Japan, white is the symbol of death, and white chrysanthemums are used only in funerals, while the pink chrysanthemum, as I just said, is the symbol of the imperial family. In Victorian England, yellow chrysanthemums were melancholic and mourning. Now they've become somewhat celebratory in modern United States. What I take from this color stuff is that we've been seduced by the surface and forgotten about the real relationship between humans and this particular plant, which is that this plant is good for us. It can protect us. That's why it was singled out among all the shrubs and domesticated and turned into an edible and something that wine could be made out of because it had medicinal properties. Sometime we got seduced by those beautiful colors and those perfect petals and thought that was the point to the chrysanthemum, not taking seriously why plants get domesticated and make it into our lives, not taking seriously enough that wisdom. The chrysanthemum is one of the 4 noble plants for real reasons. It was domesticated and brought into a long-term relationship with humans for real reasons. And maybe if we wake up and listen to what our ancestors knew, the chrysanthemum can still help us today fight the plague monster. Something that we're finding increasingly difficult and maybe could use help from people who understood these matters a long time ago. The wisdom is in us, has always been in us. It's in you. And I thank you for joining me in this brief, unusual meditation on the chrysanthemum. Yeah, thank you. And for me, as you let those chrysanthemum thoughts just shake around in your head a little bit, thinking about the real meaning of knowledge lost, overlooked by shiny surfaces. However you want to take it, you can see what it brings up for you. And for me, part of a social meditation in VR is going around and hearing from people and seeing if there's any chrysanthemum experts here who can fill in gaps in my knowledge, or just people that have anything they feel like bringing up or sharing in any way. And I think that Lord Schmaug, if I'm saying that right, might have been the very first person here. So why don't I ask you, Lord, if you just have anything you just feel like checking in about? I'm taking that as a no. You're happy to just be here for the meditation. I'm so glad. If I have a meditation in mind and nobody comes, that would be really awkward, because I'd like to be able to say these out loud. So thanks for coming here, Lord. Thanks for being the first one. For a while, I thought it was just going to be you and me, but we got joined by some other people. Jim joined us. How about you, Jim? Anything you just feel like checking in about chrysanthemums or life in general?
even if to doing it with the chrysanthemum, having it go when it did to go out of China, and all of it to doing the different colors and shapes and flavors. Huh? But what if that even didn't even go as to do even to go as even to be look more like?
Path not taken. Yeah, you were saying a lot there, and I'm not sure if, a lot of color varieties were already established in China. It didn't just get colorful when it left there. And I think in some ways, maybe I was trying to suggest Confucius might have led us down the wrong path by focusing on the beauty. He literally said he was mesmerized by it. And mesmerized isn't necessarily a synonym of mindful, but Confucius was supposed to be so mindful too. You'd think he would focus on the social utility, but he didn't. He focused on the beauty of it, and once it left China, it never really made it into diet. I've traveled extensively in China. I've had lots of dishes with chrysanthemum in it, so I've eaten it. I've had chrysanthemum wine. I've certainly had chrysanthemum tea. You can get that in any tea shop in America now. But the chrysanthemum wine it takes over a year and involves distilling other grain too. So it's really an intense extract. I guess we have to be to fend off the plague master. But anyway, how about you, True Rican? You all set? Okay, glad to have you here. Thanks for joining us and staying for the whole story. How about you, Damon? How did this one strike you this week? What can you surprise me with here?
Plus, you kind of inspired. That thought.
Hmm. Well, you went. I don't know why we didn't just say, "Hey, chrysanthemums are medicine." I don't know why did it go to that next level. I don't know. I don't know what that propensity is to be just overwhelmed by the beauty of it, or something like that. Because clearly, um, uh, when it was just a shrub and then started to be cultivated, I have to assume it was not done for decoration or beauty. It was done because somehow people figured out that these plants have a protective value. And how does that get trumped? I don't know. If you do research, I'll tell you another thing though is that your research sources will also reflect the point I'm also kind of trying to make in the story too, which is that 95% of the things that will come up on the first 6 pages of Google, if you just go chrysanthemums, are will be there will be completely about the color symbolism, and it will be superficial. Yeah, well, you have joined the end of a meditation here. I'd appreciate it if you could yeah, just like you are, find your seat. We're checking in now. We've finished a little story about what chrysanthemums are really about, not just these
What are
pretty things.
chrysanthemums?
They're a type of flower, and they're the type of flower that a lot of times people wear at celebrations. They have all sorts of different colors. They can be orange, they can be white, they can be purple, they can be pink, and they're very, very common. You've seen them. But it turns out that a long time ago, people knew that they were medicine also. And what I was going to finish saying to you, Damon, is not surprisingly, most of them will just say, in a very superficial way, pink means this, purple means that, without really going into the meaning of the colors. And it wasn't until I I didn't know anything, and I found that it was first domesticated in China that I started to Google chrysanthemum Chinese folklore, and that's where I started to find the stories and started to gain a little bit more insight into what was going on there. So yeah, and for me, it's. I also just want to say that I think there is such wisdom deep in all of us that we don't take seriously because it's out of what we call what knowledge is now. Knowledge, empirically so-called verified in a clinical laboratory. There's a lot of other kind of knowledge out there. So yeah, but thanks, and tell me if you come up with any other insights. This is just what I've learned myself. And how about you, Bill, boss? .f. Any thoughts from you on it?
So what is the medical use for it? Is it like it's like a psychedelic, or what does it do?
Well, the known attributes now, anti-inflammatory. Again, I'm not a super expert, but I think we are coming to learn in the last 10 years that inflammation, which is our body's first line of defense about stuff, also causes problems because it doesn't go away. You know, inflammation is good, but only up to a point, and sometimes the body has trouble turning that off. And a lot of disease is associated with inflammation that just stays there and doesn't go away. So things that have anti-inflammatory properties are really important at restoring the balance when we got inflamed to fight off something. Antioxidant also. Let's see. What? I'm not quite sure. Are you here, Ruth? And do you have any moderator power?
I don't. Yeah, you have to give that to me.
And can you talk me through what I need to do?
I learned how to moderate your bones. So first you stretch
Hey, B-Dog,
your legs.
can you mute yourself for me?
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you,
meet
B-Dog.
you.
Wow. Yeah, that's another way. So, and all we're saying, we're really happy to have you here, B-Dog. And we just like went through a whole little kind of meditative story about a flower. And I just wanted the people that were here to be able to, you know, ask any questions or say what came up for them. And that's how I like to do it. And but you weren't here for the story part. So, but it's just the idea that we can have flowers that are really beautiful, but maybe sometimes there can be more to them. They can be medicine. And so now what Bill Boss was just asking me, like, what kind of medicine? And so, you know, being able to get rid of inflammation, that's important. Antioxidant means it tends to reduce some of the aging effects that the processes in our body. But I think where the real action is going to be is antibacterial and antifungal properties that are being researched now. So they might just directly attack bacteria that attack us. And I'm sure there's plenty of other, plants like that too. And then of course it's, how do you prepare it? Chrysanthemum wine is different than chrysanthemum tea. I note in the story that the chrysanthemum didn't kill the plague monster. It just stopped him. It made the plague monster hesitate. And in that hesitation, the green dragon sword was used to kill him. So, I mean, if we really take it literally, chrysanthemum maybe doesn't, it helps us fight disease. But it doesn't, it's not like a slam dunk the way we think of a disease killer. So I think our understanding of working with disease, it was more subtle, perhaps, than it is now. That's what I'm trying to say. So, yeah. Well, Rev, I'm glad to have you here, just sitting here so attentively. I wonder what's on your mind about anything, but chrysanthemums too.
Well, I just believe that the whole, I guess, the loss of the knowledge and wisdom of these medicinal plants and herbs like chrysanthemums and marijuana and so many other different ones are directly correlated with the, the rise of the industrialization of medicine.
Yeah.
Like when the pharmaceutical industry became a thing, of course they want you to lose that knowledge locally, so you're dependent on buying these drugs that you could grow in your backyard from them. So I think that I just wanted to point that out. That's probably one of the main reasons why we don't know most of the things in our backyard can heal us.
No, that's for sure. And we, and again, we're all complicit in to the extent that it's fairly recent for a lot of people to think that, like, wow, there might be truth outside the scientific paradigm. So yeah, I'm not sure how open I would have been at other points in my life, but I am certainly open now to non-clinically verified ways to be healthy, including meditation. Although meditation, to me, is one of the few health practices that just about everybody, scientists and traditional spiritual anybody, agrees is a good thing to do. So that's nice. Yeah. Well, thanks, Rev.
Got
And
question. What
well,
about
go ahead,
the
B-Dog.
monster?
Yeah. Say it again. I didn't hear you.
What about the monster?
I'm not. So I got the monster part, but and there was a monster in my story, and I'm not quite sure.
What
But you
did
were here
it
for
look
us.
Yeah.
like?
Oh, what did it
He
look
wants to know
like?
about the plague
Well, that's a
monster, yeah.
great question, and maybe you were here, and maybe you did hear it. And I don't, this is a monster that was in China, and lots of monsters in China look like dragons. So as I imagined the plague monster, I imagined something with kind of a dragon head with a big mouth, a long body, and then this long tail, but also could fly, but also would have legs and be able to walk. It's like a dragon, and that's how I imagine it. Yeah.
Cool.
But it would be easier if plague monsters were dragons, because we actually can't see real plague monsters. They're almost invisible, and it makes it harder to fight them. It would be easier if you could just run them through with a sword, but we do our best. So
Wait.
anyway,
How do
I'm
you
just going to
go
have to
to-
say. Go ahead.
Keep on. We keep on. Okay. How do you make anger issues go away?
And I heard that, but I didn't hear how do you make which go
How
away?
do you make anger issues go away?
How do you make anger issues go away? Man, that's such a great question. And I'm not going to say that I have an easy answer, but do you have anger issues?
Half.
Sometimes, yeah. And have you figured out ways to get rid of them sometimes?
Nope. Only way
I
is
see.
slapping myself until I calm down.
Wow. Well, yeah. What we were doing here when we started was, I call it an unusual meditation. Usually when people meditate, what they do is they just sit quietly and breathe. And put all your attention, the attention that you have on being angry, like, because when you're angry, all your attention is going, I'm so mad at that person, I'm so mad at that person, I'm so mad at that person. And it's like you just keep playing a tape over and over again, the same tape, right? It's like you're on a little videotape loop. And if you can just like make your attention now go, I feel the air filling my lungs now. That's where my attention. And the more you can get your attention away from that anger loop and into anything else, and your breathing is always there, that would be one step to start. A lot of people do that. As soon as you feel that anger, you go, put all my attention on my breathing. And if you can do that for maybe a minute's a long time, but if you could put your attention on your breathing for a minute, and then see if the anger is still there. You want to add anything to that, Ruth? R.C. Deggs?
Yeah, one of the ways I cope with anger is I get sad. I let myself get sad.
B-Dog, I don't know if this is the answer you want to hear, but R.C. Deggs is talking about turning anger into sadness. That's interesting. How do you do that?
Yeah. Anger is like fire, and sadness is like water. And when I let the sadness come out, it helps the fire go down.
Cool.
I like that.
Yeah.
I do like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting nice and informal here, but it's good to be informal. And so now I think it's finally time that I get to say fuck you and ask if I'm reading that correct, Mr. Fuck, if you do have something you'd like to throw into the conversation. I'd love to hear from you. You're used to this, I know. It's fun for us, but you do it all the time, I'm sure. No, you're saying no. But, okay, I can dig that.
This is my
And,
first time.
and I wonder, well, when it's time for us to talk, we'll talk. What I wonder is if you're taking a joy in letting people say fuck you and having that be okay. That would be pretty cool. But maybe you have other reasons, and I'll learn about them as I learn more about you. So
Why would we
thanks for
learn
coming.
about a swear word?
I see. Well, it's how the avatar is one thing, but I'll go along with that. I also just wanted to say, fuck that. I noticed that you sort of came in toward the end, but you just came in sort of quietly and were part of it. And now I'm not actually sure what's on your mind, but I'm anxious to find out what's going
你
to
好，
happen.
我是法友。你喜欢中文吗？
He speaks Spanish.
Ni hao.
我是法友。
Ah,
Oh, it's
I should have been studying my Mandarin more. Yes, I see
没事
now.
吗？没事吗？My English not so good. You say chrysanthemum, lotus
Don't worry, I got
flower
this.
is very good. 美国人 everyone have good tea every night, healthy.
That's right.
是
Excellent.
Yes,
And when I said, how were my
yes,
words? When I said Jew, as opposed to
Jew.
Jew, or Jew.
做
Yeah, Jew.
做
So Jew. So that's the chrysanthemum. But then isn't to live someplace is Jew,
做
right?
Cantonese pronounce 做 Mandarin 是 Hakka Mandarin 做
Got it. And what's your main dialect?
Hakka.
Wow, Hakka.
Hakka.
I have many Hakka friends. The only people that ever bound their feet. Good for you.
没事没事没事
Wow.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming. I hope I get to see you again, and I'll practice my Mandarin before I see you again. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's
For
so good.
sure.
Yeah, and it's remarkable that you're here. I'm not sure what part of the world you're in right now, and if you got in on something else. But anyway, glad to have you. It's just so great. I hope the whole world can be meditating together. It is one of my hopes. I have led meditations in China using WeChat audio. A group in Chengdu, one of my favorite cities in the world. I've been to
Oh.
Chengdu a lot. So yeah, but you're probably not. If you're Hakka, you're probably not from Chengdu. So
没有 I'm from 光子 光子 is or North China.
Yes.
I immigrated to America. I live in Sacramento, California.
oh, I see. Yes,
Yeah.
I know other Chinese people in Sacramento too. So yeah.
Beautiful
Well, good.
land, beautiful country, beautiful. Many many
Northern
color.
California is, yeah, gets kind of hot in the summer. But if you're
Oh,
in northern
oh,
China,
so
you're used to hot in the summer. Yeah.
Yeah. Lot of black people. No black people in China.
No, not too many.
Beautiful color. Beautiful color. Yes.
Yeah. Well, how nice of you to say all that and be here. So be sure to come back and we'll keep talking. I'll be doing this every
Yeah.
Thursday and lots more like it. So thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And thanks everybody for coming. This was kind of a different kind of focus. I sometimes take on big topics like quantum mechanics and life and death, but yeah, you can get to some pretty important issues, even with the chrysanthemum, where you maybe be fighting off the plague monster. So anyway, that's what I have for now. I thank you all for joining me at an unusual meditation. And I don't know if you got to check in all you wanted there, Ruth. I asked you to check in with B-Dog. Do you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
Well, just interesting timing. I wonder how many other people, we've had a spring jam going on where people are building spring worlds, and I was feeling I've had it on my list to build a world on the Three Sisters, which is an indigenous tribe concept of combined agriculture. And I did that this weekend kind of accidentally. I was trying to build something else and then built a garden demonstrating the Three Sister plants and how they're complementary together.
Yeah, beans, corn, and
I was
squash.
feeling, I was feeling the timeliness of that, and then it turned into a whole game world. But hopefully, it'll still just infuse people with some of that natural wisdom that we forget.
Yeah. Well, that ties back to all that circular stuff that this world is about, and that I was doing, and here we are. The harvest. We're starting to plant right here now. In fact, we got our spring lettuce and arugula and asparagus up right now, and
Asparagus?
but asparagus, yeah. You like that?
Makes pee smell weird.
Well, thanks for coming, B-Dog. It was good having you here, and Rev too. I hope I see you again.
Absolutely.
Thanks for that.
I'm going to go out and buy some chrysanthemum tea now.
Yeah, there you go. You probably have to drink a lot of it to get rid of the COVID monster, but anyway, it's worth a try.
COVID
Yeah.
Sure, it's still good for you.
Okay. Well, bye for now, everyone, and I'll be in touch, Ruth. Okay. Hope all's well.
Yeah, sounds good.
Has Drew spoken with you?
Yeah, he did. He reached out. Thank you. If
Okay.
anybody
To be
would like
continued.
to go check out the Three Sisters World.
Oh, okay. I'll
I'm gonna
follow
go
you to
there.
that.
Join
You wanna
Jimmy
come see?
Boy.
It's
Yes,
cute.
I do.
It has
Okay.
diverse
Am I-
gnomes. Oh,
am I
actually,
doing the right
this
thing?
won't work. Sorry. There's a bug where it'll kick me out. So just open your world menu and look for Three Sisters.
I gotta go. Bye bye. Bonjour.
Okay, bye. Yeah, thanks for coming. You were great.
Bonjour.
Yeah. So
Okay,
that's
back to
where I will be.
back to
You're all welcome to come.
Three Sisters it's called. Okay.
Hey, Alamis. An update to the game. The virtual desk. Better, I mean, the frame rate. That was really annoying. Tapping at 40. Pixels. That would happen when. Yeah, that was a little bit. Actually, is desktop is. Great. Technical stuff. That about them. Actually, a meditation app. Or with Flutter as well.